Welcome to Part 12, Ron's Lehigh River Valley, the Lehigh Gorge. George Hart's 972 tourist engine charges up the Nesquehoning Branch with passengers in 1985. The train at the high bridge near the end of the line. It was once known as the second highest bridge in Pennsylvania. The highest bridge in the country at 301 feet was built in 1882 in McKean County, Pennsylvania. A beautiful view in the fall. It was used as a tourist line for the Knox, Keene, and Kinzua Railroad.
On the afternoon of July 21st, 2003, an F1 tornado struck the viaduct and toppled 11 of the piers. Rebuilding the bridge was not an option due to the cost. In 2005, it was decided that a section of the bridge that was still standing would be turned into a skywalk. Visitors could view the valley and the toppled remains of the bridge still laying on the valley floor. Now we'll turn our attention to the Lehigh Gorge. Looking north from Mount Pisgah towards the lower end of the Lehigh Gorge. At the bottom of the picture is the abandoned Central Railroad of New Jersey Nesquehoning Junction Tower. The tower controlled trains switching on and off the CNJ main line for the Nesquehoning Branch. Just north of the tower, a bridge carried the railroad over the Lehigh River. North of that was the bridge that carried the CNJ main line over the Lehigh Valley Railroad. The Glen Onoko Falls can be seen off in the distance.
The end of a tourist train passing Nesquehoning Tower in 2010. The train is on the old main line of the Jersey Central. The branch cuts off just out of the sight on the left of the tower. The tower in an attempt to deny exposure, but fog rolled in and turned the star trails into a blur on this 4-hour shot. Central New Jersey pushers shoving a train up the gorge at Nesquehoning Junction in the late 1940s. The Nesquehoning Tower can be seen just left of the bridge approach. A Lehigh Valley Baldwin built 4058, a 210 Santa Fe type, is charging up the gorge under the Jersey Central Bridge in 1948. A new bridge is under construction in 2017 to connect the main line with the Nesquehoning Branch to form a Railroad Y, where trains can be turned in the opposite direction. The first train had crossed the Y in December 2019. Service vehicles are on the main. Tower is just out of sight in front of them. The Lehigh Valley Railroad Bridge about 2 miles north, that's railroad west of Jim Thorpe. The railroad station is visible in the distance. The Valley Station at Glen Onoko. Behind the station is a restaurant. The structure was demolished about 1917 as the Glen lost popularity as a tourist destination. The model station and train, as they might have looked in 1890. Glen Onoko Falls has been modeled in the background. A walk up to the falls took about a half hour depending on how fast you could climb. A Lehigh Valley freight train passing the station location in the late 1960s. The Central New Jersey tracks is to the left. At one time, the Central passed through a tunnel on the hillside. A Delaware and Hudson freight train rounds the curve in 1982. The rails on the Central side will soon be removed as the Central has abandoned all lines in Pennsylvania by the 1970s. The view from the top of Glen Onoko Falls. It's mid-autumn, and little water is falling over the falls. The fall season was not the time to see action at the falls. Only a trickle of water is flowing here. The springtime rains brings the falls to life. The end. It had to happen. Too many people were getting hurt climbing up the falls. Most were ill-equipped as the original trail became seriously eroded. Trespassers will be fined. A view looking down the trail about 1900. The restaurant at the beginning of the trail is in the background. It was a leisure stroll when all the trails were maintained. Wahnetah Hotel is across the Lehigh in the background. The Central New Jersey had a small platform for unloading passengers. Meals at the hotel were served at all hours. The Glen Onoko Hotel was built in about 1885. It had dozens of rooms and a horseshoe-shaped bar. It was very popular with railroaders and the general public. Warning signs were placed on the porch about card sharks. Seems like it became a gambling hall and too much alcohol consumption. Sparks from a forest fire on April 27, 1911, burned it to the ground in a few hours. The tunnel and bridge about 1900. Tunnel and tracks about 1912. A guard shed on the north side. The crack is from a glass plate negative. The tunnel was abandoned about 1913. The tunnel in 1982. The Glen Onoko area under construction in model form, 2004. The completed area at Glen Onoko. The prototype scene is about 2 miles upriver from Jim Thorpe. Screen wire with newspaper, then molding plaster completes the scene. Trees are picked from goldenrod trimmed in the fall and sprayed. Painted bushes are lichened. 2 trains approaching the hotel. It didn't plan on it, but 100 windows came out of the model. All are scratch built, as all 600 structures were on the train layout. The south end of the tunnel. Clearances are tight, but engines in the 19th century were much smaller. The Wahnetah Hotel model from the Central New Jersey Bridge in 1990. The rails have been removed for quite a few years and made into an auto bridge. The fence around the bridge is identical to the one in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, surrounding the station there. Directly over the tunnel on a beautiful day in 1980, a Conrail freight heads over the bridges, heading upriver. Night view shot from the Glen Onoko Falls, 4 hours. A Blue Mountain in Reading heads up the river in 2005, hauling passengers in the fall and summer months. The adjoining canal roadbed, Central New Jersey roadbed that is, has been turned into a bike and hike trail. A Delaware and Hudson freight heads up the gorge in 1980. The rusting rails of the old Central New Jersey are yet to be removed, and the area is turned into a state park. Pushers are headed upriver on this long freight. With this many helpers, the train should have no trouble. At Glen Onoko, a Norfolk train is headed upriver in 1990. The Lehigh Gorge Scenic Railway SD50 at Glen Onoko with a load of passenger cars. Lehigh Valley Pacific Locomotive 2138, built by Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1919 and scrapped in 1948, powering up the gorge about 1935. Rushing down grade bound for Allentown, PA. Note Jersey Central tracks near river. The coal dust lay very thick in the steam days. Haven Junction about 1900. Lehigh tracks are about left side of the picture. Went to Hazleton, PA. Tracks in center went to the turntable behind the station. Tracks on right crossed over the Lehigh Valley. Looking the other way down the Lehigh Valley shows valley tracks crossing the Jersey Central east of the Lehigh. House behind station was privately owned. View from the hillside behind the station shows turntable and early Lehigh Valley Railroad roadbed on east side of the river. In the distance is Old Penn Haven with the Valley Bridge crossing to the west side. Same section, 100 years later. Night shot at Penn Haven, North Star Center, 5-hour exposure. Fog covers the area next morning. Model of Haven Junction. Valley diesels are on the Hazleton Branch. Central of New Jersey RS3 is on Jersey Central's main. Work crews are at work on the crossing. View of the station, which has been reduced to a control tower. Local 214 is a road switcher which came to the Lehigh Valley in the 1950s. Locomotive 530 is an Alco product of 1948. Crosses the Lehigh River at Penn Haven, headed south through the Lehigh Gorge. Engine was traded in for newer models in 1972. Black Creek Junction in 1895 on the Hazleton Branch. Track to the right goes to Hazleton. Straight track goes to Delano. Weatherly Station on the Hazleton Branch, a few miles north of Black Creek Junction. Back in the Lehigh Gorge, the Black Diamond races northward. An Alco product of 1924, it was streamlined in 1939 and scrapped by 1950. Headed south of Penn Haven Junction across Lehigh at Conrail Freight crosses the bridge in 1983. Conrail took over Northeastern Railroads in 1976. Myself and wife overlooking the gorge in 1990. Looking south in the far distance is the town of Nesquehoning. Near Oxbow Curve, a Conrail train winds the curve. A night exposure of several hours at the same location. Maintenance in the gorge was frequent as rock slides were frequent. Here in 1921, a Lehigh Valley ballast train is at work. In 1936, in the Lehigh Gorge, a Central New Jersey loco has hit a big rock and nearly plunged into the river. A recent wreck on the ex-Lehigh Valley Railroad tracks at a place called the Narrows. A wreck on the Lehigh Gorge on the central near New Jersey had cars nearly plunged into the river. A lot of cargo was lost in this derailment. A Conrail freight winds down the gorge in 1980 at Drake's Creek, just below the Rockport Tunnel on the Lehigh Valley tracks. By this time, tracks of the central New Jersey had been removed from the gorge. Rockport Tunnel in 1980 in the Conrail era. In the steam days, 1634, a locomotive camelback from the Lehigh Valley blasts out of the tunnel. It's an Alco product of 1906, scrapped by 1932. Rockport, Pennsylvania, on the central New Jersey at the turn of the century, on the west side of the river. A Lehigh Valley nighttime exposure. A fog rolled in before dawn and ruined most of the Star Trail pictures. Brand new central New Jersey diesels in the late 40s in the gorge. Watching the fog roar down the gorge at sunup is a thrilling experience. It's 1936, and a Lehigh Valley passenger train is headed up through the gorge above Glen Onoko. Central New Jersey tracks are right near Oxbow Curve in 1936.
Visible crossing the top of the picture is the Tidewater Oil Pipeline. It was built in 1886 to move oil from western Pennsylvania to New Jersey, thus circumventing John D. Rockefeller's monopoly of many eastern railroads. Today it carries fiber optic cables across the river.
Just below Whitehaven, a doubleheader headed west, crossing the bridge at Bridgeport. Floods were frequent on the upper Lehigh Gorge. The Lehigh Canal and Dam has already been abandoned in this picture. At Whitehaven, a fan trip from the Strasburg Railroad in February 1968 has just crossed over the old Central roadbed. Number 90 is a 210 was in front. Note abandoned Central roadbed below. At top of the gorge, we come into Whitehaven, Pennsylvania. The Lehigh Valley had a small servicing area there. It's about 1900, and we're looking south. As we come to the end of this 12-part series, with over 1,000 photographs, we watch a sunrise over the Lehigh Valley Gorge. What a trip to the Lehigh Valley, but only a touch of the history has been shown here. Every place on earth has a unique history and story. I leave it up to history to look at the final chapter. Ron Luckock, January 15, 2024. Some extras. Jersey Central's annual report, 1957, looking toward New York in the distance. It was a very busy place in the 1950s. Thousands of cars and passenger trains were unloaded and loaded here daily.
This is the Jersey City Terminal on Ron's backyard G-scale layout. To the right is the former Lehigh Valley Main Line, operated by Conrail when this picture was taken. The layout runs 300 feet to the east along what is now the NS Lehigh Line and terminates in a replica of the Lehigh Valley Railroad Phillipsburg Tower. Trains on the layout were radio-controlled.
I had the best of both worlds, O-scale at the top and 3-rail at the bottom. This part shows southeastern Pennsylvania at the top, stretching almost full length of the 112-foot cellar. Prototype photos at top show what scratch-built structures look like in their heyday, 45 years of model building. The O-scale version of Jersey City Station in my cellar. The Blue Comet is a Mike's Train House die-cast 2-rail. The Reading Pacific is a brass Weaver build. Directly below the 3-rail version of Jersey City, most of the trains are Lionel.
Here, a picture of a painting by Robert West of the Jersey City Terminal, circa 1941.
Looking down the aisle in my cellar, showing the lower 3-rail layout with lights in the upper 2-rail turned off. The far end of the central side, lower level. The far end of the Lehigh Valley lower level. As I reach my mid-80s with some health issues, I am standing where the Lehigh River Dam met the Delaware River. That's downtown eastern PA in the rear. My house cat, Dumpy, joins me in the teardown. When my dog died, a very pregnant cat showed up upon my doorstep and quickly made itself at home and added 2 kittens under my bed. I quickly had her fixed soon after. The most heartbreaking part was tearing down the Lehigh Gorge, since I was always a very serious scenery buff.
Inspired by a painting by Griff Teller in the 1949 Pennsylvania Railroad calendar and a Strasburg Railroad fan trip Ron shot in the 1980s, he constructed this O-scale model of the Whitford Bridge that was located on the main line between Harrisburg and Philadelphia. Here the model is on display at a train meet in Easton, PA.
Ron made the decision recently to disassemble both his O-scale and Garden G-scale layouts. While the last section of the O-scale was still intact in his basement, he ran a couple of his favorite trains for one last time. Ron had some G-scale modular sections stored in his basement that he would bring to various train shows. Here they are set up at the National Museum of Industrial History prior to renovations. The building was originally part of the sprawling Bethlehem Steel Complex in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Ron set up these sections in his basement for a last run of some of his G-scale models. The bridge is modeled after the Canyon Diablo Bridge in Arizona, as seen in this photo Ron took in 1987. For strength, the sides were cut out of 4 pieces of plywood. This model bridge is transported in 2 sections,